It's time for the Chips and Salsa Show.
The only show about Latinos for Latinos. And did we mention Latinos?
It's the Latísima.
Latinos come in all flavors, shapes, and sizes. You don't have to be Latino to enjoy chips and salsa.
People love chips and salsa.
Welcome to your Chips and Salsa Show. This is Don Jorge El Alacran with my co-host, Cheryl Rosado.
Hello.
Rosado.
Mm-hmm.
Rosado.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody put Rosada on. But anyway, she's a very good co-host, and she started last week, and we're just rocking on. Today, our guest hosts here are Don Hiatt and Jeff Zink. And so we'll have them both talking about their candidacy. Don Hiatt is a candidate for Maricopa County Recorder, and Jeff Zink, you're
running for CD3 Congress. CD3
Congressional Office, CD3. So that said, Chipsters and friends of the Chips and Salsa Show, we ask you to contribute to our show by telling your friends to share on Facebook, subscribe to YouTube and Rumble. And we'd like to thank our producer, director, Eric Williamson, for all the hard work he does. You're going to hear us on video today. Our cameras, I don't know, they're just not.
Just some technical difficulties today.
Difficulties.
We're audio only.
Audio only. And you're going to have a great show. Okay, so do you have a few words to say, Cheryl?
I just really want to, let's jump into it with Mr. Hiatt. You want to go ahead and just give us a little, tell us a bit about what the county recorder does, and then how your experience in your IT background is going to benefit you in that position.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the county recorder is responsible for two major areas. Number one is documents like deeds and mortgages and plats and keeping track of property. So that's one aspect. The recorder records those documents. And then they're also responsible for elections, the management of elections. So that includes planning elections and executing the elections. So my background and experience is I have 38 years of IT technology management experience. And I'm an expert in the field of document management and scanning solutions. That actually was where I started my career. And so one of my very first jobs was selling document management and scanning solutions to recorders' offices. So I did that in 1986.
So you're familiar with both sides then?
Yeah.
Being a recorder.
I'm definitely familiar with the different aspects of the recorder's office.
And what did you just reminded me of something?
Well, technically, how are you? Have you visited the county recorder's office, seen the site books, the tabulators?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, I was given a tour by Scott Jarrett not too long ago. Actually, Bob Branch and I went down together with Shelby Bush, and we were given a tour of the facility then. So we got to see the elections area, the scanner, all the things that they do there. And then they took us back and showed us signature verification because they were doing the presidential preference election. And so they were showing us the process involved there.
Did you see anything on that tour that you would like to change when you come in the office, or was it a little too superficial for that?
It was probably more superficial. The areas that I'd like to change, first off, I want to do an analysis of the processes of how they manage elections, because that's really my specialty. My business process re-engineering experience would allow me to understand what they do and how they do things. And my whole career has always been about making things more efficient and less expensive to process information and whatnot. But I'm more interested in trying to find out how we can make sure that the elections processes are totally secure and that we're following the laws. I really believe that there's quite a few laws that are currently not being followed, including counting the ballots before they leave the vote centers. That's something that is new, and they're talking about hiring a whole bunch of staff to count that. I'm like, why do we need permanent county staff for that?
Yeah, they just had a hiring event I went to, and they were hiring for everything: warehouse workers, truck drivers, counters, like you said, and they had a big turnout. It was advertised on the news.
Yeah.
The sheriff's substation is where they had it.
Yes.
One thing that I'm hearing a lot is people wanting to have Arizona removed from ERIC.
Yes.
Is that something? What's your stance on?
I totally think we should not be involved in ERIC. I don't believe it's really given us any valuable information.
What's
So, ERIC is a system that supposedly when somebody goes to register to vote, it checks to see if you're registered to vote in other states around the country. Well, actually, there was only ever a total of 35 states that were signed up to ERIC. So 15 states you couldn't check to see if somebody was there. And then recently, Louisiana decided to check out, and a total of eight more states moved out of it. So now you're down to what, 35 or 25? And now it can only check half the country. And so what good is that? By the way, you may as well just check the National Change of Address database, because it's probably going to have more updated information in it as well. So the ERIC system was put together to be able to help the recorders or elections offices around the country manage their registrations. So I don't think we should be involved in ERIC at all. I also don't think we should have Albert sensors on our networks either. An Albert sensor is what's called an intrusion detection management system, and that's listening to all the packets on the network and attempting to identify if somebody is trying to hack into your network. So
wouldn't you need that to know somebody's trying to hack into your network here in Arizona?
Well, buy one from Planeteer. Don't use an Albert sensor. Albert sensors were pushed out to all the elections offices by the election, and I don't know if it was CISA or who, but they were pushed out specifically to elections offices, and it's monitoring every bit of traffic that's on the network. So I'll go ahead. I'm going to segue up that a little bit and tell you a little bit about something else. Have you heard of Splunk logs?
No.
No.
Okay. Well, during the audit, they requested to get the Splunk logs from the county recorders or the county network. Splunk is a system that's used to capture network traffic on a company network, and it records every packet. And they said, oh, we can't give you the routers, we can't give you the Splunk logs because it's also got our sheriff's information in it, and that would compromise whatever. Well, if Splunk couldn't filter out the sheriff's network, it wouldn't be worth purchasing. That is what its job is to do, is to filter traffic so that you can look at it. So that's just another example where they were trying to hoodwink you and say that.
Is there a lot of money there?
In Splunk or in?
Or the county paying for this?
Like kickbacks, you mean?
Yeah, I really don't know. I wouldn't be able to
Couldn't
answer
speak to
that
that.
question.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I do know that there was a lot of things that were said about the 2020 election, like it was the most perfect election we've ever had, and everybody stood up and nodded and said yes. Well, if anybody tells you that, they're being disingenuous at best, or simply not telling you the truth. And the 2020 election had all kinds of problems. In fact, any election where we've had machines involved, you have problems. There's plenty of evidence to show. I won't use the word evidence. I'll say there's plenty of information to show that a system in Mesa County, Colorado, was hacked. It was a Dominion system, and they changed the outcome of an election. And I know that for a fact as a technologist because remember I told you I started my career in scanning paper. We used to use a stopwatch to figure out how fast you could decompress an image. It was around 10 to 15 seconds. Well, now when it got down below a second, we stopped measuring or counting. It's so fast now. But anyways, the scanning systems, if you take a batch of 200 ballots and you scan them and transfer them across the network, it's going to take about 4 to 6 minutes for those 200 ballots images to move over the network. And in Mesa County, Colorado, they had 2 databases on their system instead of 1. And the first database showed batches arriving at a cadence of 4 to 6 minutes. And the second database didn't have all the batches listed, but the batches arrived in milliseconds, which is, it's like, we just made the speed of light go 100 million times faster. It's a physics thing. You can't do that. So to me, that's an absolute example of how somebody hacked a system and changed the outcome of an election. Wow. So I'm not a real big proponent of machines.
Okay, I remember a long time ago we had insight machines rather than tabulators. We never had a problem with the insight machines. They just said that they got old.
That you know of.
Well, no, I worked as a troubleshooter, so I know that there was a paper trail as we put the ballots in the insight machine. There was a paper trail that went from the polling place all the way to MECTEC. Everything was traceable from the time it got to MECTEC. We could trace it all the way back to the polling place. With the tabulators, it's still a paper trail, but it's gotten. We had more problems with the tabulators.
Yes. I like to call it tabulator cleanup on aisle 3.
That's when Helen Purcell's was this.
Yeah. Helen Purcell was applauded for bringing in e-poll books to Maricopa County.
The e-poll books I hated.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a lot of problems.
That was the start of the process, and then, of course, machines followed that.
Yeah. I like the old style where they just cross your name on a book.
Well, there's something to be said about paper.
And precinct-style voting versus the voting centers, which we did talk about just a little bit earlier. And I wanted to touch on something you said there. You said you ran an analysis of the cost, because we currently have about a month of early voting where you get, 8 to 12 people in to vote some days. And that's not an exaggeration, because I was a poll observer. So for the last, I think, 4 elections. So I've seen it firsthand. And I wanted you to talk about the cost analysis.
Yeah. So I took the 235 vote centers that they had for the 2022 election, and the hours of all the different sites were open and how many people were typically manning those stations. And my wife was a poll observer at one of them, so she called me and said, "Hey, they're locking up and they're leaving the ballots here in the building. They're not doing the closeout process." And I said, "Well, that's kind of weird." But anyways, I did the analysis to find out how much that would cost, and it cost about $34 and change to collect a ballot during the early voting period, and it costs about 42 cents per ballot during election day. So if people are complaining about, budgets and money, well, why do we need an election month? Why don't we have an election week at best? And simply, tighten that up, get rid of 3 weeks of wasted time and effort. And that was anecdotal. I didn't have, I don't know if they pay rent for those facilities or not. Yeah. It was just simply the number of bodies, and I know what they pay. We're paying them as workers.
And I think one thing that voters don't know, because like I said, when I was poll observing, I saw this. People thought that they were going to cast a live ballot the same way that you do on election day. They didn't realize that they were going to stick it in an envelope and shove it in the door, right. And it's not the same. And so it's just such a waste. And I think it's done that way so that we can say, well, but look at how many mail-in ballots we got. But some of those did come in from people trying to vote in person. They didn't realize that they were really just casting an in-person mail-in ballot.
Correct.
I do like ballot on demand. They just print out a ballot. That's about the most cost-effective thing that the Maricopa has done, because they used to come in stacks of ballots, and a lot of wasted ballots.
Well, they used to print 1% extra ballots for the precincts only, so it wasn't a lot of waste. We probably spoil more than that in the vote centers as it is today.
So, Jeff, what do you think about that early voting and?
So one of the things that we need to look at, and Don had brought up Tina Peters, which is the Mesa County recorder there in Colorado. And in working with her and her legal team, one of the things that was blatant in how we caught them red-handed was that they told Tina that they were going to do this update and that they were going to show up at 8 o'clock. And so she shows up at 7:30 and Dominion is putting everything up. And the thing is that what they didn't know is that Tina had done an image prior to that update. And then they did the update, and then she made a mirror of it. Now you can go to Mike Lindell's website and you can see both of those. 5,000 ballots disappeared in that so-called update. We have them dead to rights, and yet they're prosecuting a grandmother, a Gold Star mom, and they're trying to put her in prison for life, basically. So it's a 20-some plus year sentence, which at her age would be a life sentence. And so we need to sit down and start looking at what's taking place. A lot of these images that I have seen all over the country, especially in what we proved in Georgia, where we had 9 Dominion machines in Georgia, and only one of them had this astronomical amount of ballots that were utilized. But that one was the one that created all of the issues and changed all of the outcomes of all the races there. When we filed in lawsuit and they said that we didn't have standing, Garland Favorito did a great job, and he's with VoterGA.org. And the thing is that what we were able to prove is that not only were there injected ballots there, 380,000 in Georgia, we had 280 here in Arizona that we, in our audit, all of these different states that I have worked with has shown where these injected ballots, where are they coming from? And a lot of them are coming from third parties. So Arizona has a unique deal. We have Runback that prints out the ballots, sends them out, they go to the precincts, and then they're boxed up and they're not counted. We had over 270,000 ballots that do not have a chain of custody. How many ballots difference between Hobbs and our Kerry Lake?
17,310.
17,310.
Wow.
And we have 270,000. And so that's enough to overturn that race.
And Abe Hamada had the same issue, right?
Actually, it was a different issue. So one of the things where he was disenfranchised, or the voters were, was the fact that he had lost by 580. It triggered, because it was 1%, triggered a recall or a recount. And so they chose 2 boxes. In that 2 boxes that was randomly selected, they cut it from 580 to 252. Now that's just 2. We have 10 more to go. There's 12 altogether, and 10 more. They said no. There's not any reason why we would find or a reasonable person would understand that there would be more ballots found. Okay, so then we started the court case, and our court case was based upon the 7,000 disenfranchised voters that, and so we know Jorge here. He has a house here in Phoenix, and he has a house in Payson. And when it gets really hot, he goes to Payson and hangs out. But during the winter, he comes back here, and we vote during the winter, right? During November. So one of the things is that he works all day. He then comes in, he goes to the poll. And this in 2022, they tell him, I'm sorry, you're not registered here, that where you have voted for 20 plus odd years, you're no longer registered here. So without his permission, without his knowledge or anything else, they had changed it to his house in Payson. And so this was done through Arizona, Service Arizona. One of the things is that over 90% of those disenfranchised voters were Republican. Think about that. You take that 7,000 and you apply it to the 252, and he should be our AG. Mm-hmm. So these are things that, in all of the things that I've been doing across the country, these are some of the blatant things that have happened here in our own state, but also have also went out in other states, and we've seen the identical things there as well. So we have to sit down and have somebody like Don, who's going to come in and look at this and look at it seriously and address these blatant issues and revamp the system. And the first thing is that Dominion, ES&S, Pro V&V, and Smartmatic have to go. They cannot be involved in any elections whatsoever. So we need to go to, and I'm proposing a 4-day election. So we do a Saturday, we do a Sunday, we have a holiday either on Monday or Tuesday, make that a holiday, whatever. But we have 4 days where we vote, and that's it. And you have to have a signature and a driver's license with your picture to verify that you are a voter. And then at the end of that 4 days, we hand count it at the precinct level, and we've proven that. The MCRC, at the state convention, we literally proved that we can take 5,000 ballots and in less than an hour have every one of them counted and have the results in an hour.
Right.
How would you do it, Don?
Well, a precinct typically is between 1,000 and 1,500 voters, but you never get 100% turnout. So if you were to look at that number, it's about 600 ballots is what you have to count on an average size precinct. Mm-hmm. So that could be done in a very short period of time.
What kind of manpower are you looking at? Because I was discussing, because I was part of the hand count team for the Maricopa County Republican meeting earlier this year, and it was a large team. There was a bunch of us, and like Jeff said, we had it counted in like under an hour, the bulk of the votes. But for a precinct, we wouldn't have as many volunteers, as many people. So what kind of numbers are you looking at? Because people told me, oh, well, it might have been fine for the county meeting, but it's not feasible at the precinct level because we're not going to have 50 volunteers.
Yeah, well, you don't need 50. And actually, I did an analysis of that. I'm sorry, I'm an engineer. So I did an analysis of that and found that for Maricopa County, if you had 938 precincts, you would probably need a total of about 10,000 people across the whole valley to do the count. But that also depends on when you start. And I think we might need to change go to the legislature and change when we can start counting the ballots at the precinct. Right now, it's after the precinct closes. And then you're supposed to count all the ballots before they get moved from there. And of course, we haven't been doing that. I find
we need to follow the law first.
We need to follow the laws that we have, mm-hmm. and we need to understand where it's simple. If you don't understand it, you can't fix it.
How would you want people to donate to your campaign and join your campaign? Could you say a few words?
Sure.
Because we're running out of time.
Yeah. So my campaign is Don Hiatt for Recorder.
The number 4.
Yes, it's the number 4. So it's DONHIATT. I always used to tell my wife it's not like the hotel, but it's HIATT, the number 4 recorder.com. And there's a big donate button up on top.
Okay, and Jeff, how do you want your people to donate to your campaign? Give them information about your campaign.
Absolutely. It's jeffzink.vote. And so it's ZINK, then instead of C, it's ZINK. So jeffzink.vote. Go there, and on that first page, right at the very top, there's a donate. And, $5 to $10 goes a long ways in my campaign, and have as many people, donate and tell your friends. And we've got to get people that are good, godly men and women into office that will do the right thing and have a backbone. And I'm one of these that I'm a big proponent for Don and support him. We've actually been together, the last 2 days quite a bit, going over stuff. But the knowledge that he has and what he can bring to the table is going to change the lives of the people here in Arizona, because he's going to actually make them follow the law, do the things that are supposed to be doing that they're not doing right now. And I think that's a great deal. So, go to his website as well and donate to him so we can get him in office.
Okay, are you guys willing to come back in July, sometime in July?
Especially Jeff Zink, since we didn't have so much time today because of technical difficulties. So I'd love to have you back.
And,
not a problem.
and we'll arrange it. Cheryl will arrange it. It'll be in July, hopefully before the primary, so that you guys have a chance to reach out to the voters again. Thank you for coming in. And,
Thank you.
Sorry
Really
about the
appreciate being
video,
able to be
but
here.
the video will be working when you guys come back the next time. We'd like to thank our producer director Eric Williamson. He's working hard and he's trying to get the cameras working, but the audio is great. We like you to contribute to our show by having your friends share on Facebook, subscribe to YouTube, and also to Rumble. When you do Rumble, what were you saying, Cheryl?
We'd like to be able to go live on Rumble, so we need you to follow our account. And same with YouTube, like our videos, subscribe to our accounts to help us out. That's something really great that we would appreciate.
So that's better than money. That's just you.
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, it's like sharing, so share to your friends. Stay tuned for next Tuesday. We're going to have the famous show Sheriff Joe Arpaio, candidate for mayor of Fountain Hills, and also past sheriff of Maricopa County. And he said he has Trump's ears, so we'll ask him about that and what he's heard from Trump.
And if you have any questions for him, please message us on Facebook. Let us know, and you can send us an email. We'll put our email accounts up and let us know if you have questions.
And we'll have the Kerry Lake show here on June the 25th. We'll also have Abe Mohammed coming in a couple of weeks, and we have Dr. Branch. We have so many people in our lineup, and we'll put it on Facebook for you. Watch your kids around water. Don't leave your kids or pets unattended in your vehicles, please. It's starting to get hot. And please watch them around water. Everybody should have a designated person to watch their kids around the water. Other than that, have a blessed weekend. Have a blessed Memorial Weekend. They have flags set up at ASU, and they also at the cemetery. The Riders USA are setting up flags all down. I think it's Cave Creek. The Cave Creek Road?
Creek Memorial.
Yeah, at the memorial. And that's on the 27th, Monday. Everybody, have a blessed weekend, a safe weekend, and we'll see you next week with the Sheriff Show on. So thank you, and
We'll catch you next week.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.